Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon spoilers video. So over the past couple of days, we definitely got a whole bunch of new and exciting cards, so let's just dive right in and talk about them. First up, we have Giro Greymon. So in the red Agumon/Greymon line that we've been getting in the set, this is looking to be the champion. It's no surprise that he has the Digiburst ability, considering that a lot of the other Digimon from the Savers or Data Squad lines have this Digiburst ability, but stat-wise, he's nothing too special to talk about. And then, like I said, his main ability is this Digiburst ability, where you get to delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less. So I think this is a pretty decent ability because removal is always good, even though it is conditional on them having a Digimon with 4000 DP or less. So I just think this is a pretty interesting card to play around with, and I think the removal ability is pretty good to have. Next up, we have Zed Guru Ramon. So Zed Guru Ramon is kind of like the counterpart to what Victory Greymon is, where it's just another Greymon. So Zed Guru Ramon is just another Guru Ramon. So stats aren't anything too interesting, but what's really nice about him is he has the main ability of Digiburst too. So his Digiburst ability is you get to return one of your opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon back to their hand. So this is just acting as that form of removal that blue generally likes to do, which is bounce, which is really good because we kind of have been alluding that the Gaomon line is also going to be interacting with bouncing cards. So this could kind of form a Gao Garuru-like hybrid deck where you're just going to want to constantly bounce cards back to the opponent's hand. And having the Digiburst 2 ability means you could technically do this twice if you fully Digivolve him. And that is just something pretty decent to think about because this ability isn't locked once per turn. So you could play him, then bounce 2 things, and then you could use the Gaomon stuff to interact with the fact that the opponent now has more cards in their hands than you would like them to. But you put the cards into their hand from the field, so I just think this card is just looking to be a really good setup card for the Gaomon stuff. But outside of that, just bouncing stuff to the opponent's hand is really obnoxious just because it's their form of removal, and it's a huge anti-tempo play. Next up, we have Marine Chimeramon. So Marine Chimeramon is a pretty decent Digimon. Stat-wise, again, nothing too special to talk about, but he does have this really nice on-play ability where you get to return one of your Digimon back to your hand, and then you get to return one of the opponent's Digimon back to their hand with no Digivolution sources. And then if your Digimon had any Digivolution sources, then you trash those Digivolution sources. So this is kind of interesting because you get to bounce one of your cards to bounce one of the opponent's cards. So, and the opponent's card has to have no Digivolution sources. So we kind of already knew that, like, blue wants to play a little bit with them not having any Digivolution sources, but this is a little bit better in this set than if this card was released any earlier, because Digimon have the Digiburst ability, so they're going to be getting rid of their own sources, so that way you could potentially use this card without needing to attack their Digivolution sources, because the Digiburst mechanic is just going to do that for you. So that's something really, really interesting to think about. And then on top of which, you returning one of your Digimon back to your hand. Blue has a whole bunch of really good and cheap on-play effects, so you could use this with the promo Gabumon to just get rid of another Digivolution source off of one of the opponent's Digimon, or you could use this with the classic just normal Gabumon from BT4 to just basically get another card draw out of him when you play him again. So there's just a whole bunch of different applications that this card can combo with and synergize with, and then on top of which this is a really decent bounce card considering you're getting a body on board, even though you technically just removed a body from your board. But the big thing is you're looking to get rid of one of their Digimon off of the field. And that's what's the important part, especially against something like a Mega Zoo deck, where they're just not going to have any Digivolution sources anyway. So you could start outplaying Mega Zoo just by playing Marine Chimeramon and making sure that they'll never really have a card on the field. So overall, Marine Chimeramon is a pretty interesting and pretty decent card, and I think it might be pretty decent, but only time will tell to see how much this card's actually going to get played. Next up, we have Soundbird Mon. So Soundbird Mon is a pretty interesting rookie for the color purple because he has this really nice when attacking ability where you could trash one option from your hand to gain one memory. So not only does this help you set up your trash, because purple already wants to have a whole bunch of trash-based interactions, but you are also trading off a card from your hand to gain some extra memory for some early game aggression. So in purple, we already know that they already have a whole bunch of different salvaging effects for both options and for Digimon. Purple already has a whole bunch of decent card draw, so it's not like losing the one card is going to be that big of a deal. Next up, we have a new version of Deviamon. So stat-wise, he's really nothing too special to talk about, but he does have the main ability of Digiburst 2, which Digiburst has the extra added benefit because it adds cards to their trash. And then his Digiburst ability is you get to delete one of the opponent's level 3 Digimon. So this is a little bit more restrictive than something we just saw in the form of Giro Greymon, but it's still a pretty decent ability to have because just being able to remove bodies off of the opponent's board is still very, very valuable, and this could be a pretty decent card at different stages of the game, depending on the opponent and how the game is progressing. So I definitely think that Deviamon is a pretty interesting card overall to think about using, just because of this Digiburst ability and the fact that he just has more removal attached to him. Next up, we have a new yellow option card in the form of Blinding Light. So Blinding Light costs 0, so we already know it's going to be something halfway decent that gains memory, because a lot of these 0-cost option cards are really tempo or memory based. So it looks like its main ability is you get to trash the top card of your security to gain 2 memory. So this is, again, another really decent card because trashing the top card of your security just helps you get to that 3 security threshold that yellow really wants to be at, on top of which the trade-off for doing that is gaining 2 memory, so you could really use that memory to help extend some of your plays and make something really powerful and really exciting happen. So overall, I think this is a pretty solid option card for yellow to be playing around with. Next up, we have Tactical Retreat. So Tactical Retreat is a 1-cost yellow option card, and its main ability is we get to place one of our Digimon face down on the top of the security stack. So this is a pretty decent ability because we already know we have some security Digimon, so you could combo this with the yellow security Digimon to attack with it, potentially break a security if it doesn't die to the security check. Then you could use Tactical Retreat, put it on the top of your security stack, and then they have to attack into your security again, and they'll just replay him. So we have that type of interaction. Or if you just want to get a card off of your field to do some quick healing, this is really good for that too, where you could just literally play a rookie, get its on-play effect, and then Tactical Retreat it to basically heal yourself. This type of a card is really, really solid, and it has a ton of applications, and definitely is a really interesting card for yellow to play around with, because it is also an alternate form of healing. So overall, I really like that first ability, and then on top of which it has a really nice security ability of just letting you recover 1. So whether it's recovering 1 from a Digimon on the field, or in the security just being able to recover 1 is just a really nice ability to have. So I really like this card, and I think this is going to be a really interesting card to look out for. Next up, we have Final Zubagon Punch. So this is a pretty decent black option card. It costs 2, and it has a really powerful main ability. So its main ability is one of your Digimon gets plus 3000 DP until the end of the opponent's next turn. So it's already looking to be a really powerful DP booster. And then on top of which, if that Digimon then has 16,000 or more DP, then that Digimon gets a blocker, it gets reboot, and it gets security attack +1 until the end of the opponent's next turn. So basically, this just turns a really big Digimon into a blocker with reboot, and then it just also so happens to give it security attack +1. So this is a really, really powerful option card to think about. It isn't exactly hard to get a Digimon to have 16,000 or more DP depending on the Digimon you're using and the setup. And we also have to remember that, again, this will inherently just give plus 3,000 DP before it checks to see if it has 16. So that's already really, really easy to set up because it shouldn't be that hard to get a Digimon essentially to 13,000. And then this card just literally turns the card into a absolute beast of a card for a whole turn. So I really like this type of ability because it's just a super, super spicy card. And then on top of which, its security effect is just adding this card back into your hand. So that way you could then use it. So obviously, this is supposed to synergize with the Digimon that he is based off of, but because Black has access to a whole bunch of level 7s, this could work in a lot of those level 7s, and it also can work in just some of the other cards that Black has available to them, because Black also has a whole bunch of passive DP boosts. You could also think about using this card with something like the starter deck tie, because the starter deck tie will just passively on your turn give all of your Digimon plus 1,000 DP, so that way you could also use that to set it up. So this card just has a whole bunch of easy setups and is going to be a really powerful card for Black to be playing around with. Next up, we have Dark Roar. So Dark Roar is a pretty powerful Black option card that costs 3, and its main ability is you can destroy one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 3 or less, and then for every D Brigade Digimon on your field, you increase the targeted play cost by this effect by 1. So this means if you have 1 D Brigade, then you could target something that costs 4 or less. If you have 2 D Brigade, then you could target something that costs 5 less. If you have 3, 6, 4, 7, and so on. So this is a really, really powerful option card, especially for Black, because Black doesn't have a whole lot of removal, and you could theoretically splash this card into just a whole bunch of different Black decks, because you could just start replacing Hagurumon for Commandramon, because, you know, Commandramon's just the same type of thing, and now Black has some pretty decent removal options. On top of which, this is kind of enforcing the fact that D Brigade is probably going to be a deck in the set, and we're probably going to be getting more D Brigade in the set, and that type of deck is looking to be like a really aggressive Black deck, and I'm really excited to see where that type of deck goes, because it's just a new way to play Black. But outside of that, like I said, this is just a really, really powerful card because it is a very cheap removal card that could potentially hit a lot of different Digimon depending on the stage of the game and how the game is developed. So that's all of the cards that we got over the last couple of days. We definitely got a whole bunch of really powerful and really exciting cards for a whole bunch of different colors, and new decks might even start forming because of these cards. So I just am really liking what the set is doing, and I think this is going to be a pretty decent set overall so far. And if you like this content and want to help support the channel, I do have a TCG Player affiliate link down in the description below. If you use that link to purchase anything off of tcgplayer.com, then some of the money will end up going to supporting me in the channel. Then I have also partnered up with Overcard Gamers on Facebook, and they are nice enough to print some of my playmat designs. I will have more playmat designs going up in the future, so feel free to check back on them and some of my designs. And then whenever you mention my YouTube channel to them, they will give a $2 discount off of any of the playmats with my designs on them. And that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comment section below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.